These canisters right here, when you read the safety warnings on here, it will say do not refill. Let me just say something to you. You can refill these. Yes, you can. This video is about different gas bottles and about different gas bottle adapters. And what I want to just show you in this video is just how to use some of these adapters, particularly if you want to refill some of your bottles and which ones can and can't be refilled. Let's just tip these out first of all. Now I've got a whole bunch of gas adapters. These are not expensive, but each of them have their own place. And I'll just show you what they are. Now these two are identical, so one can be taken out of the equation, and these two are also identical. And they both do the same thing, so we'll just leave one of them up on the table. 5 different sorts of adapters. Just show you how to use these and how to refill your bottles. Now before we go on, I'll just say everything that I'm going to reference today is from an Australian point of view, so I'll just be using Australian terminology. Just take that into account. Everything to do with gas bottles and refilling them, you will do at your own risk, always in an outside area where you got lots of ventilation. This is just for information only and what has worked for me for many years, and I just want to share that with you. So before we get into how to refill your bottles, let's talk about the different types of gases in these bottles. Here in Australia, generally we have a hardware store called Bunnings, and we do a swap and go system, and that's what it is here. These bottles are our LPG bottles, that is liquefied petroleum gas. This is also propane gas, okay, like with this, but I'll just talk about this for a moment. This is used for your barbecues. It can be used also for certain kitchen setups, not every kitchen setup, but my kitchen is set up where I use this gas and I replace it, and it's a very cheap way to have a gas stove in your kitchen. Let's move over to this bottle right here. This bottle here is a typical camping gas bottle, and it's a propane gas. It's the same gas that's in here, but it's just called propane gas. Propane is a form of liquefied petroleum gas. This is 8.5 kilos. This is 3.7 kilos. Now this specifically is 468 grams of gas, and you can buy this in all your camping stores. Even Bunnings sells this as well. Next, we move on to a bit of a special gas, and they're called isobutane gases. They're a mixture of 74% butane, isobutane, and then it's got 20% propane, what you see here. So it's a special combination. I'll talk about application for this very soon and the price point. And generally these are 227 grams. When you're talking about the Jetboil branded one, 230 grams. And then their isobutane mixture here, this is 100 gram canister. And then we move on down to these ones. These are butane gas canisters. So these ones, just like we see over here, and also this one, used for a lot of different camping applications. These, by the way, are 220 grams, and that's it. Now let's talk about the applications of these gases. These ones are very cheap and used for a lot of different stove setups that are very cheap to run. And butane gas has a boiling point of about -1 degrees. And what that basically means is that at -1 degrees, if it's that cold, this becomes liquefied, meaning it no longer operates as a gas. So these are no good to use if you're going to be camping and using some form of a stove or some device that requires butane gas, if it's going to be in cold conditions, i.e. below -1 degrees. Otherwise, this simply won't work. You won't even get a flame going. Next, we talk about the isobutane range of fuel, and these ones have a boiling point of about -12 degrees. So these are definitely better than these gases if you are planning to use this in sort of snowy conditions. So at -12 degrees, this becomes liquefied, meaning it will no longer operate for you. So if you're camping in conditions up to -12 degrees, these will work just fine, whereas these won't. If you are in very cold climates, then this is the type of gas you want to use in extremely cold conditions for camping. Propane gas has a boiling point of -42 degrees, meaning at -42 degrees, this then becomes liquefied and it will no longer operate for you. So I hope that makes sense and clarifies. Here in Australia, we don't have absolutely freezing conditions unless if you're going to certain snowy alpine areas. We do have that, But for my type of hiking, these gases, the butane gas is perfectly fine for overnight hikes. You know, I'm not in freezing conditions. This works a treat. But if you're going a little bit colder, then this is what you want. If you're very cold conditions, this is what you are after. I want to just cover off on one more thing before I talk about these adapters, and that's price of these things, all right? How much this costs. Here in Australia, we buy these at a really cheap price, and they're available pretty much everywhere. And as an example, in Kmart, yes, here in Australia we have Kmart. I know in America they no longer have Kmart, but you buy 4 of these for $6. So that equates to $1.50 for one canister. And this is sold literally everywhere. It's so accessible, I just can't over exaggerate it. So $1.50 for that. Now we're talking about these isobutane. Now the Jetboil branded stuff is a bit more pricey. If you want 100 grams, which is what this is, this will cost you generally around $13. 13 bucks for 100 grams. When you're talking about the 230 gram canister, I got this from Anaconda for $16.95. On average, this will cost you about $16. You can get them a little bit cheaper, sometimes a bit more expensive, but on average about 16 bucks. If you go to Kmart, this is ridiculously cheap, okay? I think I even saw it for $3, but on average, it will be about $4, $4.50. $4 from Kmart for exactly the same equivalent gas, okay? So that's just something to keep in mind. Camping stores, a little bit pricey. Kmart, super cheap. Let's talk about this style of propane gas, 468 grams. These come in different sizes, but this is a pretty typical size right here of propane gas for camping, stoves, and different sort of devices as well you'll use on some form of camping trip. Water boiling devices from Coleman, this is what they use. This at the moment is around $10 from Bunnings for 468 grams. Other places it will be $15. So on average, it's around $12 to buy this. Here in Australia, we do an exchange program, as I mentioned, for 3.7 kilo canister right there. The price to exchange that is $22.50. If you want to exchange an 8.5 kilo canister here, that's $31.50. So let me give you a bit of a price on these gases, and I did the calculations here. We're going to calculate this according to per 100 grams. $1.50 for one of these canisters, it equates to 68 cents per 100 grams. If you want 100 grams of isobutane, the Jetboil branded one, that's $13 right there. $13 for 100 grams of gas. If you want it in this form, 230 grams, the Jetboil one, it's around $16 on average. This will cost you $6.95 per 100 grams of gas. However, if you have Kmart near you, especially here in Australia, 227 grams, this will cost you $1.76 per 100 grams of isobutane gas. Now let's move on to propane gas in this canister. On average $12 for 468 grams of gas. That equates to $2.56 per 100 grams of propane gas. Now let's move on to these. For 3.7 kilo canister, 61 cents per 100 grams of LPG or propane gas. And when we're moving up to the 8.5 kilo can, we are talking 37 cents per 100 grams. So this is the cheapest gas and the cheapest way to go. You buy bigger, you'll get it cheaper. The next cheapest option is this. And then you can see in Kmart, this is a great price. Then these are expensive, and even this style of gas is expensive as well. So we're all about saving money, aren't we? And so what I want to show you is what we can actually refill, what we can't. Now these you're never going to refill. This is what you will do an exchange on, or you might go to a camping store and they will refill it for you and give you back the same canister. I love the exchange program, and I just think it's easier from Bunnings. You take it back, $31.50. I get a whole new LPG bottle and it lasts me for ages. This you can refill. I do not ever buy new canisters. As long as there's no damage on there, I refill this. I have done so for many, many years. These canisters right here, when you read the safety warnings on here, it will say, do not refill. Let me just say something to you. You can refill these. Yes, you can. The only thing I will say here, the caveat is you can refill this, and I refill it with this cheap butane gas. You will never concoct your own isobutane gas mixture, okay? So you don't refill it with isobutane, you refill it with butane. But understanding that if you're planning to hike and use this type of stuff in cold conditions and you've got butane in here, then remembering that boiling point, this is a higher boiling point than this, it may not be very efficient, or it may not even work for you if it's below 1 degree. So just keep that in mind. Then we're talking about these gas canisters. This cannot be refilled, and you don't even bother. They're so cheap. When it's empty, you throw it away. Let's move on to our gas adapters. When we're talking about these various different adapters, if you want to refill your propane bottle like this, I refill it from this LPG bottle, and I need this adapter right here. And I'll show you how to use that very, very shortly. And this is the only type of adapter you should be using to refill that. When we're talking about refilling this, there are a couple of options. The main two are these ones. This one's a bit more expensive, and you know, it's got this sort of a gas or pressure release right there. It's got this knob that turns it on and off. It shows you where your out should be there and where you're in. So that means the canister that is the source canister and the canister that will be the receiving canister. Okay, out, in. I would just say I prefer this one much more. Much cheaper and better than this, but they've both got their own applications. Then you've got a few other adapters as well. This is for the propane bottle right there. Put this upon here, and then you can operate a stove by using this adapter. So that's if you want to use propane, this is the adapter you want to use. Then we've got this adapter, very handy, and they've actually improved so much in their design of this, and I'm really happy with how this works. This adapter is for your butane bottles, and basically it goes on really easy. You know, just put it there, and there you go. And you can just put a whole heap of things on and use your butane bottle for that. Now, if you want to refill your propane bottle and you want to refill it from a larger canister like this, the very first thing you need to do is put this into the freezer and let it go cold. Let's do that. So just find a spot, plonk it in there, and then we'll come back and grab it. So I'm going to refill the propane bottle from this 3.7 kilo bottle. So we're first going to remove the safety plug. We next are going to get this adapter, and once again, all of these adapters and everything, if you want to buy your own, I'll put a link in the description area, and you can get your own. So this will go in. Now, remembering that these LPG bottles have a reverse thread, so let's put this in first. So you'll notice I'm doing it in an anti-clockwise threaded direction. Okay, now I'll just tighten that up a little bit. Don't have to over tighten things greatly upon gas fittings. Cool, and that is all that is required. All right, let's get this nice and cold propane bottle out in its empty state. 420 grams. So what we do is we are now going to be attaching this to this adapter right here. This just screws on in a normal clockwise fashion, like so. Now what I like to do, I like to tip this upside down, like this, and I open her up. I can hear the gas is filling up into the propane canister right there. And pretty much with filling this, I will wait until I can no longer hear gas being expelled into the canister. Now I will say that this will work best if you allow your gas bottle to freeze for at least an hour. I've only had it in the fridge for about 15 minutes. It will work better if it stays in the freezer for a lot longer than I did. Now I can't hear any more gas escaping, so let's just see how we're going with that. All right, I'm going to close off the valve. There we go, that's good. I'll undo this. Okay, let's see how much gas is inside this now. So I've got 651 grams of gas, about, I don't know, 200 plus grams. So this really could be filled up a lot more. For that to take place more effectively, it needs to go back in the freezer and more to go in. But I can still feel, you know, it's about half full, but more could go in, absolutely. All right, I just topped it up a little bit more, and we've got 728 grams. So that's just a smidge over 300 grams of gas, bearing in mind that this is 468 gram capacity. So if I did want to top it up to an even more fuller capacity, I really need to freeze this for a lot longer, and then it'll draw in the gas and it'll be a lot more fuller than simply 300 grams. It'll be a lot more closer to 400 or 450 grams. Okay, when it's finished, just remove it. Yeah, that's how you use that adapter to fill a propane bottle with gas. Easy as. And if you want to refill your isobutane gas canister with just regular butane, as I do all the time, then you need to put this first into the freezer as well and get this cold. 10 minutes will do the job just fine. In a completely empty state, this canister weighs 101 grams. Completely empty, and we put this into the freezer just the same, get it nice and cold. I want to show you why this is actually better. If I got this adapter and I want to refill this from the butane canister, I need to actually have this adapter. So it now becomes a matter of having two things. So sure, I can put this on like so. Okay, there we go. Okay, and it works. Yep, it's gas. And then I could actually get the empty canister that's been refrigerated and is cold, and I can put this on like so and then turn it on and it would begin to fill up. That is one way, but I've actually found in practical experience this works a whole lot better, and it works faster, surprisingly faster than this. This is convenient. You can let it go, turn it on, or kind of walk away. I'll show you how to use this though. It's nice and cold. Got my nice cold canister, remembering that it is 101 grams, and I want to put 100 grams of butane gas into here. And this is what I'll use. I'll be measuring this to make sure the correct amount of gas goes in. So the way this works is this adapter simply goes there. It doesn't screw on or anything, it kind of just sits there. It's got a rubber washer. Just carefully put it over like this into the hole upon your empty canister, like that. So I'll just show it to you one more time. Just goes down like so. Now you're just going to push downwards. Now gas is going in, I can hear it. I will actually end up weighing it on here to make sure I've got my 100 grams of gas or close to in the canister. Okay, it's been going for about a minute now. I can't hear too much more gas escaping or flowing. So I'll just remove it and I'll get the adapter there. Oops, the little washer came off there too. And let's just weigh this. 195 grams. So I can probably still stick a little bit more in. Let me just get this washer on. There we go. Just putting this over the top. And that's probably all that's required. I'm gonna probably call that good. There we go, 200 grams, fantastic. So I've got 100 grams of gas in there, and this is a 100 gram canister filled with butane gas. For my needs and my type of camping that I do, this works brilliantly and will last a long time, and costed me only, what was it, 68 cents. Cheap as. 68 cents just to fill this, compared to buying a whole new can for $13. Sure, it's not isobutane, but it does everything that I need it to do upon my kind of camping or backpacking. All right, very, very cheap. And by the way, just for your information, this is the one and only canister I've ever bought. I've had it for 3 years now, and it lasts me for ages. If you wanted to refill this canister with isobutane, then this is the adapter that you want. Just as an example, I'm not going to do it, but I would be doing this. Okay, you take off these protectors on here. They both have the same threads. And let's just say this is the empty canister. I don't want to spend my $16, $17 and buy another Jetboil one. I want to refill it with isobutane from Kmart. Or you might have a smaller canister like the one I'm freezing. So this is my source and this is my empty canister right there. So I'd be putting this on where it says out. Out is upon the source. And so I just make sure it's turned off like so. There we go. Screw it on. And that's when now I'll be putting on the canister to be filled. And that screws on as well, nice and easy. Don't have to crank it up super hard. It's got all rubber seals there. You don't have to break it, okay? And now, this is now where I'd be tipping it upside down. This is the empty canister. This is the source canister. This should be up on top, upside down. This should be cold, and then you turn it on, and this will draw out the gas into the destination canister. So that's how you could actually refill another canister with isobutane if that's how you want to do it. Now the only adapter I probably haven't covered off on is this last one. And what this is for is if you want to use like a camping stove that has a thread like this, then you're going to need this adapter. Or you might want a stove that you can attach like this. And if it's propane that you want to take, then basically this screws on. And then you can put on your stove up on top, or you can attach your other end of the stove like so and have your cooker like that. So that's what that adapter is for. I hope you know, these adapters now make a little bit more sense as to how you use them and how you can refill some of these bottles, you know, safely. At the end of the day, just take care in everything that you do. But this is at least a way you can save a few dollars, not having to always buy these canisters. If you want to refill them, you can refill them for cheap with butane, and you can refill propane bottles for cheap from these type of cylinders. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I'll catch you on the next one.